Hi, everyone. I'm excited to talk to you today about how to minimize toxins. And this is so you can sleep better and be healthier. So let me tell you why this even matters. So toxins are all around us in the air, our water, our food, our cleaning products, even our lotions and shampoos. Pathogens in our gut actually also release many toxins. Heavy metals are toxic, and your liver has to break down all of those toxins. And so everything we're exposed to puts an extra burden on the liver. I talked in a previous podcast about supporting your liver. And, I mentioned I have people ask me, well, if I don't drink alcohol, can my liver still be unhealthy? And it's yes, because we are exposed to supposedly 10,000 toxins a day or something like that, in our everyday life. And so your liver has to deal with all of that. And the reason your liver is important for sleep is because your liver is most active at night. So in the middle of the night between 1 and 3 a.m. is when your liver is detoxifying a lot of these toxins. And when there is more toxins than it can handle, then those toxins end up circulating around, causing a lot of inflammation, which causes your body to release cortisol at night. And that is going to wake you up. And so my goal with all of my clients is to find as much stress and inflammation in the body and lower that as much as possible. We're never going to be able to be 100% toxin free or inflammation free, but we do want to lower that, find as many things that are causing that stress, causing that inflammation, and lower those so that your body has a chance to heal and get better. And so I do different tests that are looking for, toxins from your gut, toxins from heavy metals, how well your liver's functioning, so that we can get to the bottom of that. But it's also really important to minimize these environmental toxins as well. So these are things that we're exposed to that we can control to some extent. So let's talk about what that looks like. So one of the first ways that you can lower toxins that you're exposed to is to eat organic food. So organic food has fewer pesticides, hormones, chemicals, pretty much toxins on it. And also organic foods can't be genetically modified. So it's really lowering, again, this stress in your body if you can, eat foods that don't have these toxins, because we eat 3+ times a day, most of us. And so it's something we're constantly ingesting. And so if you're constantly ingesting chemicals and toxins, it's going to put that extra burden on your body. So this is why organic is so important. And if you think about it, this is how all food was grown less than 100 years ago, right? Pesticides, herbicides, all of those things, adding hormones to, giving hormones to animals, those things are very new in our food supply. And so it explains why we have so many health problems and sleep problems these days, partly because of the food that we're eating. So a great resource for finding what foods are most important to buy organic is the Environmental Working Group, and their website is ewg.org. Every year they create what they call their Dirty Dozen list and their Clean 15 list. And so the Dirty Dozen list is the 12 items of produce that tend to have the most pesticides. And it tends to be things like berries, like strawberries and blueberries, imported grapes, bell peppers, those are usually on there, but the others kind of change depending on the year. And then they have their Clean 15 list of foods that have the least pesticides. And so these tend to be things like bananas and avocados. And so what I like to do, I like to buy organic as much as possible, but sometimes organic is way more expensive or you can't find it. And so I really focus on buying organic foods for that Dirty Dozen. And I don't worry about it as much for bananas and avocados. I kind of buy what's cheapest or what looks the best in the best condition or whatever. So that is a great resource for you to check out and start buying organic as much as you can. Now, this might be a surprising one, but the kind of coffee you drink is actually really important. You want to buy organic and ideally mold-free coffee. So coffee is usually grown with many pesticides, and it also tends to be contaminated with mold. But there are brands out there that you can search for that are mold-free, and definitely if you're buying it at the grocery store, going for organic is going to help, again, reduce those toxins that you might be getting from those pesticides. Now, eating grass-fed meat is important, organic if possible. And this is because, a lot of times animals are given antibiotics or given hormones, and also pesticides are sprayed on the grains that they eat. So we really want to focus on grass-fed and grass-finished meat, because a lot of times animals are grass-fed at the beginning of their lives, and then they're taken to a feedlot and eat a lot of grain and are in really unsanitary conditions for the end of their lives, unfortunately. So finding a local farmer, or there are now many mail order companies that you can order quality meat from. One is called Butcher Box. And so if you can't find it locally, then that's an option too, but that's really important. Another thing as far as food is eating wild caught fish. So farm raised fish are actually called sustainable, and a lot of sushi restaurants, say that they're sustainable. So they're buying this farm raised fish, but these fish are given antibiotics, they're given genetically modified feed, and they actually are concentrated in cancer-causing PCBs. So it's this really nasty toxin that stays in our bodies and can be transferred from mother to baby throughout the generations. So wild-caught fish is also very important. Now, another thing to consider is the water that you're drinking. So filtered water is extremely important. Tap water has a ton of chemicals. And even in Teton County, Wyoming, Jackson Hole, where I live, we have some of what's called the best water in the country. It tastes really good, but it still has a lot of chemicals. So it's not free of those things just because it tastes better. And also well water can be high in heavy metals from the ground. So sometimes I see clients with uranium toxicity and things like that can be from drinking well water. So if you do have well water, it's important to get it tested. And if it's high in some of those contaminants, then filtering that. There are websites, and I will link to these, where you can order a kit to test your water. That environmental working group that I mentioned before, they also have a tap water database where you can enter your zip code, and it will show the contaminants that are usually in your water. So that can be helpful as well. And to filter your water, you really want a high quality water filter. So things like Brita and Pure filters, they don't remove enough of those contaminants. So my favorite water filters are called the Berkey filter. And this is a cylinder filter that you dump water into and then it filters it. Or Pure Effects makes filters that you can put under the sink and things like that, so that all of the water in your home is treated. You can also buy filtered water at the grocery store, and in many cities, you can get it delivered to your home. So there are definitely some options there. Okay, now let's talk about what you might be putting on your skin. So it's really important to start using non-toxic personal care products. And this is because your skin is your biggest organ, and it absorbs everything that you put on it. And so you don't want to be absorbing chemicals that disrupt hormones. And so, which a lot of these chemicals in personal care products do. And so it's really important to use natural shampoos, lotions, deodorants, makeup, anything you put on your skin. And there's no legal definition of natural. And so some natural products that maybe you see at the health food store don't necessarily have clean ingredients. So you really have to read the labels and become familiar with things. Your best bet is to shop at a health food store, and you can ask the employees what's most natural. They likely know. Again, EWG also has a resource for this. It's called Skin Deep Guide. And so you can enter in the brand that you're using, the product that you're using, and it will give you the rating as to how clean it is. And it will help you find alternatives. You can, search for some of the cleanest products out there. And, if you aren't used to using these products, then keep in mind that some of these products take time for your body to get used to, especially deodorant can be a big one. And, soaps might not be as sudsy as you're used to. Things might not have quite the same texture as what you've been using. But, if you can commit to switching to these, you will get used to it and hopefully start to prefer them as well. I know that I do. So another thing to consider as far as personal care products is also to either avoid or use more natural things like hair dyes, fingernail polish, and perfume. So you can buy more natural hair dyes. They still are going to be somewhat toxic, but you can buy those in a health food store. Likely your salon doesn't have those, but there are more and more natural salons out there where you might be able to find those. Of course, it's ideal not to use them at all. That's why I stopped coloring my hair a few years ago. There are some really nice fingernail polishes and perfumes. You pretty much want to avoid anything with a fragrance. Same with personal care products, because a lot of times those are synthetic fragrances. And so if things are using essential oils, that's going to be preferred. That's the more natural way. Now, another thing to consider is your cleaning products. So conventional cleaners are full of chemicals and toxins. They're also really bad for the environment as well, but they're bad for us too. Now, again, the Environmental Working Group has a guide to healthy cleaning that you can find. And I found that using old-fashioned products like baking soda and vinegar work just as well as those things that you buy. They may take a little more elbow grease, but it's way better than using those really toxic cleaners. Now, another thing to consider is your cookware. What are you cooking with? Non-stick pans that most people use have many toxic chemicals that become released when you cook them. And as they get scratched, then that's releasing even more chemicals. So it's ideal to use stainless steel or cast iron. Or there are some non-toxic, non-stick brands out there. I got some green pan cookware for Christmas, or there's a brand called Caraway that make these really nice non-stick, but also non-toxic pans. So I would recommend that. It's also really important to use for storing your food, to use glass containers instead of plastic. And you never want to microwave food in a plastic container, because all the chemicals from the plastic are going to leach into the food. So glass is the way to go. The last thing to consider are EMFs. These are electromagnetic frequencies that come from your cell phone or your Wi-Fi, your computer, your TV, your microwave. They're everywhere these days. And so we can't get away from them most of the time, right? I mean, we have 5G all over the world, it seems like, but I do recommend you can at least have things turn off at night in your home. So you can connect your Wi-Fi to a timer that turns off at night. That's what I do. I have it turn off at about 10:30, and then I have it turn back on at 6:30 in the morning. And it's also really important that your cell phone isn't by your head charging and on all night long. So turning that on airplane mode while you sleep, or even better, leave it out of your bedroom. And pretty much not having any electronics in your bedroom is going to create a better sleeping environment and lower those toxins while you're sleeping. All right, everyone, I hope this is helpful. And if this seems overwhelming and you're not doing a lot of these things, then just pick one or two to start with. What do you really want to focus on? What do you think is going to make the biggest difference in your life? And start with those, and then you can gradually add others. So yes, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you next time.